So the Rebbe was explaining we're in the middle of Ois Tezvav. The Rebbe was explaining before that through Nisyonis in the Maimer, that through the Avodas HaNisyonis, we reach into the highest level of the Neshama, the level of Yechida. And the Rebbe brought out now the posik that continues, no satu liראיך להתנוסס, the idea of nisyonis. So it says, "Leman yecholtzi yidedecha hishio yemincha." What is the yemincha? Yemincha is yemin of the Eibishter. The Rebbe discusses that the level of yemin is the level of Ari Champin and actually the level of Atika. In Atika, in Atika Kadisha and Atik, we say leis smola b'hayatika. There's no left. There's only Yamin. But during the time of Golus, there is the Gilui of Atik, but it's Behelim. A person doesn't have the Gilui of the level of Atik during the time of Golus, and you have to sort of redeem it. How do you redeem it? Through the fact that a Yid works with the Yamin of his soul. Again, the Yamin by the soul is the level of Yechida. If he works in a way in higher than Hagbolas, beyond limitation, then you draw down the level of Atik and you bring it down that should stand begilui in the avodah of the person atotoimech goroli, that you have the level of ato, the level of atik supporting the goyrol of the neshama, of the level of yichida, of the avodah of the person. And that brings about, the Rebbe continues now, the redemption of the Eberster's Atik. We're saying in this man Hagolus Atik is obscure, it's not revealed. But that's what it says, Hoshio Yemincha. This will help the Eberster's level of Yemin to bring it out Begilui. Vihine. Ayidei Yemin Atik, through the level of Atik, which means once we use our own Yichida through the level of the Goyrel of by a Yid, you bring down the Goyrel of above, which is the level of Atik. When we bring down Atik, Nase Gamkein Hoshio Yemincha V'aneni. That helps your right hand. Vaneni. What does it mean, the right hand? Because we spoke about before that the level of Yamin in the time of Golus, the Eberster turned it backwards, that there is no Yamin, but now we're bringing it out. Shenigal HaYamin, the Heishiv Achar Yaminoi. That we are redeeming the Yamin. The Pasuk says, Heishiv Achar Yamin, in this man of Golus. He turned back the Yamin, that there's no Yamin, the right hand. Shoiso Mishubedes, that was enslaved. But now, Hoshio Yemincha, that will help the Yamin. And then Vaneni. V'zeu hakishur shebein bezo inyonim shebekates hayomin. This is the tie. There's two aspects in Kates Hayomin. We're talking about Yamin over here as the level of Atik, Yamin, Le Smolo Bahayati, all Yamin. And we're saying Kates Hayomin, the end of Yamin. So there's two levels. There's a level of Yamin, which is the level of Atik, and the level of Kates Hayamin, the end of the level of Yamin, which is the level of Malchus. And the Rebbe is going to say that the Kates Hayomin, the Avodah of Malchus, that Malchus comes down all the ways to Bia. And this is just like by the Avodas HaNisyonis. Through the Nisyonis, you reach to the higher level of Atik. The same thing is here, that through the level of Ketz Hayomin, through the level of Malchus, and that goes down. Let's look inside. Then we have able to reach even higher. So, v'zehu hakishur shebein bezo inyonim shebeketz hayomin. The tie between the two ideas, the two aspects in ketz hayomin. Ha'alef yimin atzma. You have yimin, not ketz hayomin, but yimin. She atikinal. That's atik, as we said before. V'abei ketz hayomin. What is ketz hayomin? The koyi al sfiras hamalchus. The end of yomin goes on sfiras hamalchus. Shaloche nikro ketz. That's why it's called Ketz Hayomin, the end of the Yamin. Ketz Loshen Soif V'Tachlis means that it comes from the language of the end and the goal, the purpose. Ki Tachlis V'Soif Hamachshocha, the Bechinas Yamin, because the end and the goal of the end of the Hamshocha of the level of Yamin of Atik Hu B'Malchus. That comes down. That's the Ketz, the end of the Yamin, the end of this, the level of Atik as it comes down in Malchus. The Sfiras HaMalchus he lemata mikol HaSfiras. The Sfira of Malchus is lower. That's the Ketz, the end of all Sfiras. Ad, to the extent that it's lower than all the Sfiras. It's not only lower than the Sfiras, but it goes down all the ways to Biyah. Ad sheragleho yerdos chulu. The Ragleo Yerdis means it comes down, Ragleo Yerdis Movis, into the level of the world of separation, into the level of Biyah. Ad, to the extent within Biyah, it goes down L'Yirida Ba'olam HaTachten, She'ein Tachten L'mata Mimenu. It comes down in this low world, in this world, which there's no lower. It comes all the way to the bottom. There's nothing lower than this world. So, that's the Ketz Hayomin. So when we redeem the Ketz Hayomin, that's through the redemption of Ketz Hayomin is Vatamid Legoyr. That's the way of redemption. So B'davke ba'avoda zu ligol Ketz Hayomin, and it's davke through this avoda to redeem the Ketz Hayomin in Olam Haza Tachten, from Malchus to the all the ways to this level, Miridoso, from his descent Lamato, Boli de Gilui, that brings the revelation, Yamin, the level of Yamin, that you stand for the goyrel, for the Ketz Hayomim Atik. So this is the tie between the two extremes, that from Ketz Hayomin, from the level of Ein Tacht Lamata Mimenu, through the Avodah, to redeem from the lowest of levels, from the level of Olam Hazeh Tachten, you come to the level and you reveal the level of Goyrolcho Ketz Hayom, level of Atik. Val derech mashin is bor le'il, similar to what we explained before, the davke ba'avodas hanisyonis, that is specifically when we work the labor of nisyonis, the work of the tests, shehi inyonim tachtonim b'yoser, which is in very low matters. The tests are very low. That's even lower. Anan Metzias, like we explained earlier, it's the lowest. It's lower than Leisas and Asei. Ubeiker b'nisyonis the Dora di'ikos of the Mashiach. And within nisyonis, he said earlier, mainly in the nisyonis of the generation of Mashiach. she'oz choshech hagolus ukofel umechupel. So then the darkness of the golus is double and quadruple. So this is sort of the greatest and biggest helem, the biggest nisyonis, the greatest testing is now in the darkness of the golus. So dafke through the lowest, the avoida nisyonis in this difficulty, in the lowest levels, boli de gilu havoida shemitzad yichida. That brings about the avoida that comes from yichida, because then when you get the level of yichida to struggle with these nisyonis, you come about to reveal the level of yichida of the nefesh. V'zeu hakishur. And this is the connection between these two, the psukim that says, Nosata l'reacho neis, l'isnois is the idea of nisyonis. And we said before, through nisyonis, you reach, as we're saying now, you reach to the highest avodah of yichida, when you have all these obstacles, especially this zman. Same thing is with the idea of the Yemin, that through Zoa Kishur Bein Neseta Dereyecha Neislis Noises Leman Yecholzin Yididecha Shimon Chovaneni. So, as the pasuk says, so that Yecholzin Yididecha, and you'll help Yemincha Ka'idei Avodas HaNisyonis Nigal HaYemin, because through this avodah of these nisyonis, that's the way you redeem the yamin, you redeem the level of atik, and you bring down the avodah that comes mitzad the etzem haneshama, mitzad the gilui of atik. That's the connection that he brought about in this ois tezvav between the nasatu the reecha neislis noises man yicholzun yididecha she yimincha. So that's what the level of yamin, because yamin is essentially the same darge that we reach through the level of nasat the reyecha neis, through the level of nisyonis, we redeem the level of the etzem hanefesh, that it should stay begilui through the avodah where megala atik, it all comes out together. V'yesh lekasher zeh oiste zayin. V'yesh lekasher zeh ima shekosu b'mizmor Tehillim. We can also connect this to that which is said in the Mizmor Tehillim that we start saying that year. This is Shemaschilim Loimar b'Yud Beis Tammuz Shana Zu in Tovshin Lamed Vav. So over there, the Tehillim, that's for the Friedrich Rebbe's age in the Tehillim. Tzadik Zayin, Pasuk Yud Aleph. So that was 97 years of the birthday. That's the Perek Tehillim that they said in Tovshin Lamed Vav was Perek Tzadik Zayin, was 97, that they said for the Friedrich Rebbe. The Friedrich Rebbe's birthday is on Yud Beis Tammuz also. Besides the redemption, he was born on Yud Beis Tammuz. So that year they started saying Kapitel 97, Tzadik Zayin. So the Rebbe says, you can tie that to the Kapitel Yud Beis Tammuz this year. It says, Oir zoru ala tzadik uli yishrei leiv simcha. So you have the light that has been sown for the tzaddik, that has been sown in the ground for the tzaddik. So this brings the yishrei leiv to those straits of heart, to the tzaddikim. Basically, it brings them joy. That's the pasuk in Tehillim, in Tzadik Zayin. Or maybe Kvet Gilush Admorat Tzamach Tzaddik B'Rishimosav LeTehillim. So the Tzamach Tzedek in his notes on the Tehillim brings down Masha Amr Razal B'Medrash. He brings down what our sages of blessed memory said in the Medrash. The Oir Zoru Ala Tzadik Hu Oir Shenivra B'Yem Rishon. What is this light that has been sown for the tzaddik? That's the Medrash says that's the oir that was created on the very first day when the Eibishter created light. But then it says that the gonzei letzadikim laos loving. The Eibishter hid it for the tzadikim of the future to come. The world wasn't worthy to use and take part of that light, so he hid it for the future. Through this, through the Oir Zarul Tzadik, so the Yishrei will get joy because they will get this hidden light that the Eibishter hid for them for the future. What does it mean, the Yishrei Leiv, Simcha? Who are the Yishrei Leiv? Shema Tzadikim Shalibim Birshusam. The Yishrei Leiv in the straight of heart is a reference to the Tzadikim because we say Tzadikim their heart is they're in control. It's in their domain. So they're called the Yishrei Leiv, the heart, straight of heart, because they control. So that's the Oir Zarua. Umedayik, that's what the Medrash says. Medayik, so he says there that the Pasuk says, Oir Zarua Goimer, that it is dafke sown. Why is it used the word sown? Why doesn't it say the oir hidden? Just like it says gonze letzadikim. What do you call it sown? Zriya dafke. So he says valderech zriya gashmis. It's a similar reason it says sown because this is similar physical when you sow. Shetzorich liyas rikoven agarim. That you need to have the seed that you sow needs to rot. That the rotting of the seed, that wakes up, that arouses the power of growth that's in the ground. So how do you get the power to grow is through the level of bittul, through the level of recovered, through the level of the seed rotting. That power to grow that sits in the ground is the power of the Ein Sof, is the power of Hashem. And through growth, through the idea of growing, that's the revelation of the power of the Ein Sof, Kimuvan Meigeres HaKodesh Siman Chof, as understood from Meigeres HaKodesh Siman Chof. So the growth, the rot of the kernel of the seed, brings out the Ein Sof, the power of Ein Sof, the power to grow. So this is physically how it works, how when you sow, what makes things grow. Similar is also in the spiritual level. Through the avodah of subjugation and self-sacrifice, that's the way to reach the Ein Sof, which is higher than Ishtalshlus. Basically, to get to Ein Sof, just like by getting the Ein Sof in the ground physically, to get to the Ein Sof, which is higher than Ishtalshlus, you need a rot, you need to have the bittul, you need to have the subjugation and the self-sacrifice. Kamavur b'mamorim al hakosum, as explained in Mamorim, also in the Pasuk, it says, Haboim yashresh Yaakov, those who come, those who are rooted, Yaakov, the Yidden that are rooted, Yotzi Tzuforach Yisrael, Israel, the Jewish people will sprout and blossom, and they will fill the face of the earth with produce. Everything is grown. So it's explained in Maimorim. What is the meaning? That what is the Yashresh Yaakov? You're sowing Yaakov, you're rooting. Yaakov is rooting into the ground. That's the avodah when you do Torah mitzvahs with a level of subjugation. that you're in the ground. Kinyan Hazriya, like the idea of sowing. Dafke. So Dafke through the level of that bittel, the level of Zriya, through the level of recovering, then you have a Moluk Pnei Tevel Tenuva. Then the earth is full with the produce, Gilu Koyach Ein Sof. That's the revelation of the power of the Ein Sof. So in order to get that Gilui of the Ein Sof, you need to have the level of bittel. Okay, Mavur Gamkim Behemshech, Kol Hanene Tofrish Naman Lanun Beis. Over there too, in that Hemshech, in Kol Hanene Tofrish Nun Beis. So this is similar to what we're talking about before. Valderech Mashen Isboir Leil Shedavke Ayidei Havodas the Nisyonis, that Davke through the Avodah of Nisyonis Magin Libchinas Neis B'toich Neis Atzmusum Husu Yisborach. That's the way we reach through the Avodah of Nisyonis. Then you get to the level of Neis B'toich Neis, through the level of Atzmusum Husu Yisborach. The level of Atzmus is said before, the level of Atik. So rotting brings about Ein Sof, like Nisyonis bring about the Atzmusum Husu Yisborach. So this idea that we were discussing here with Avedus HaNisyonis is connected to the same idea in Oir Zarul Atzadik, Simcha, as the level of Zriya, of sowing, the level of subjugation, totally nullification, recovering. That's the level of Bittul and Mesiras Nefesh, the Avodah of higher than Tavadas. That brings about the level of Atzmusum Husu Yisborach and it in the person. V'zeu gam ki ma shenemar is also connected to the pasuk in the Rebbe's kapitel. The Rebbe's kapitel at the time of Tafshin Lamed Vav was at the end of Mizmar Ein Hey. That was 75, that kapitel, and the Rebbe said that that's Yud Aleph Nisan. They begin. When they said the Maimer in Tafshin Lamed Vav, they said this kapitel. So the Rebbe is tying it also to that pasuk. It says V'chol karnei rishoyim. Also the same idea that in order to get the highest level, you need the greatest level of Mesiras Nefesh in the most difficult situations, that you bring out the highest level. That's why the pasuk says V'chol karnei rishoyim agadeya tremamno karnei tzadik. Basically, what the taich in the pasuk b'pashtus means, all the horns of the evil I will cut down, and then I will raise the horns of the tzaddik. The Eibishter will cut down the horns of the Rishoyim and will raise up the Karnes Tzaddik. So what's the connection by cutting down the horns of the Rishoyim? That's when you'll raise the horns of the tzaddik. So the Rebbe brings the medrash that actually when the Yidden were sinned, they lost their horns. Horns means their beauty, their elevation, their highest level. It's above the head. The highest level, they lost it, and it was given to the Goyim. The Isa b'medrash, it says in the medrash, Eser koronis hein shenosna kodesh baruch hu liYisrael. There are 10 horns that the Eibishter gave to the Yidden. Kivan shechotu Yisrael, once the Yidden sinned, nitlu mehen v'nitlu la'akuchu. They were taken from the Yidden, they were given to the Goyim. The inyan shel keren. What is the idea of keren? The keren that was by the Yidden was cut down and given to the Goyim. The inyan shel keren v'agbo shaykh rak b'Yisrael. Because essentially the idea of a keren, a horn, which means raised, that's on top, that only is shaykh to the Yidden. It's not shaykh to the Goyim be'etzem. Elo shemipnei chatoinu, but because we sin. Now, sin could mean different, could be literally a sin, but the Rebbe also says there's also a sin, a lacking, maybe not a literally a sin. At least through the fact that we've sinned, that we're lacking. We find the idea of chet achisoren. Bathsheba was saying to David, Ani u'shloima b'ni chatoim. Me and my son Shlomo will be missing. If they take, it gives away the kingdom to others. So me, Bathsheba says, and my son Beni will be chatoim. What does the word chatoim mean? Be lacking. We won't get it. So when we have chatoenu, is golinu martzeinu. That exile either sins or at least lackings. So therefore, what happens? The goyim don't have horns. In essence, only Yid have horns. Comes a neufel. We know that there is a battle between Kedusha and the Klippa. So when one stands up, the other one falls. So when a Yid has the chet, and he loses the horns, then it goes over to the goy. Ba'oz karnei ha'akum kayomis. So then the horns of the goyim exist. V'karnei rishoyim karnei yisrael geduyim. Rachmana litzlan. And God forbid the horns of Yidden, that beauty, that greatness of the Yidden is cut down. It was cut down from the Yidden, and the goyim get it. Rachmana litzlan. Avol through the study of Torah and observing of the positive mitzvahs and keeping and being careful from the prohibitions. And mainly through the service of Mesiras Nefesh with the matters of Nisyonis. Especially in the generation of the hills of Mashiach. That is a very difficult avodah. This avodah is because of nes that is in the nes, which is the level of the person, the level of Yechidah. So through the avodah, through all Torah mitzvahs, but especially through the avodah of Mesiras Nefesh, that we have to do, b'miyuchad b'dora, the ikus of the Mashiach, especially in our generation of the hills of Mashiach. She'oz ha'avodah kosher v'yesek kenal. She'avodah zu him tzadchina is not nefesh. I said already kenal. Hine ha'idei zeh naset re'mamno karnes tzadik. So that way we raise the horns of the tzaddik. Not only that we have those horns, that way all the horns of the Rishoyim you cut down. So you can say Kol Karnei Rishoyim Agadeya Tremar no Karnes. No, through the corner of the tzaddik. We say tremamno karne tzaddik. You bring it in the height of the kronis, which is neis betoich neis, which is the level of atik, neis betoich neis, level of atik. Beginners kates hayomin, yamin shalamaylu mimin darechampin, which is higher than darechampin, level of atik. This is the novelty of the future redemption, even over the Gula of Mitzrayim. The Yitzias Mitzrayim also are the Yisroyas Darechampin. That was Bizroya Mituya. That was the Yisroyas, the hands of Arechampin. That was level of Arechampin. Shem Beis Bechina Yisroya Yemin Yisroya Smol. Here's two hands. You have a right and a left. It's not Yemin only. Avol tremanus karnes tzadik, but when we say raise the karnes tzadik, who yemin the atik, that is the level of yemin of atik. V'dugmosei b'mitzvahs, and similarly by mitzvahs, is Hema mitzvahs she'enam tluyim b'rtzono shel ha'adam. Those are the mitzvahs that don't hinge on the ratzon of the person. Canal, we said before, that's the highest level that are beyond even the person's want, the level of mitzvahs that come milmaila. If you have the desire for nisim, that disturbs, because these mitzvahs, as I said before, leadership comes dafke bereich menakovet, not because you want it. If you want it, if you want that mitzvah of nesiyus, then it's mevavel. That's the avodah which is higher than any limitations, any measure. That is to stand with force against all blocks, all obscurities. He doesn't pay attention to them. So basically, the Rebbe connected his Perik Tilim, the Perik of Cholkarni Rishoim Agadeya, and the Perik Tilim of the Friedrich Rebbe, the Erzaru al Tzadik, to the level of Nisyonis, to the level of Yemin. And the bottom line is that through the Avodah of Etzem HaNefesh, level of Goyrel, standing strong, that's why we bring down the level of Atik, the highest of levels of revelation. And we will be Mamshel Bezer Hashem. Almost done. Okay, tomorrow
Thank you very much.
Hashem.
Yeah.
We'll continue.
Thank you.